Well, thank you for joining me today. It's about 4:30 p.m. Berlin time. I'm here joined by Director Mike Preston of the Economic Development Commission. We spent 2 days in London at the Farnborough Air Show, opened up the Arkansas exhibit there as well as the U.S. exhibit. I was with Secretary Penny Chrysler of the U.S. Department of Commerce. After our Farnborough Air Show and marketing Arkansas there, we traveled here to Berlin. This is our second day here in Berlin. Today, I was with Ambassador John Emerson at the U.S. Embassy, and we announced the opening of the Arkansas Economic Development Office for Europe, which will be headquartered here in Berlin. Cornelius Schnitzer will be our Economic Development Officer here in Berlin. That announcement was very well received, and of course the question was asked, well, what made you pick Berlin for the location of this office? And the answer is Germany is our lead European trading partner. They have over 20 investments in businesses located in Arkansas. We have substantial exports to this area as well, and so it's natural that Berlin would be the center point for our European office. As I mentioned, we met with over 20 companies on this trip. I came out of meetings for this call, and after we finish with this call, I'll be going back in to meetings with additional companies along with Mike Preston. A couple of observations I would make is that I'm very impressed with the opportunities for Arkansas in the aerospace and defense industries. There is a recognition of our not only interest in it, but the significant companies that are invested in Arkansas and have a great deal of national respect. They see the defense contracting work that we're already doing in Arkansas as an opportunity for the future. And so I see increased opportunities in aerospace and defense. The second thing that's really impressed me is the overall interest, whether it's the UK, France, or Germany, in expanding trade opportunities and direct investment in the United States. And whenever they have that view in Europe of wanting to, and seeing the United States as a great market for them, and investing in manufacturing in the United States, Arkansas has to be here at the table competing with the other states that are present, so that we can make sure that a portion of that direct investment is directed to Arkansas. I do absolutely expect results from this trip. We have none to announce at this point, but there's well over a dozen significant leads that we have to follow up on, and we're delighted with the results of this trip thus far. Finally, I have been very pleased with the spontaneous expression of interest in the computer coding initiative in Arkansas. Virtually in every meeting, the companies bring up the fact that we have this initiative, they're impressed with it, and they talk about how important it is in their digital future and how that is key to, one of the keys to their expansion opportunity is the ability to have workers who have a good background in STEM education. And so with that, before I turn it over for questions, I want to ask Director Preston if he has any comments.
Thank you, Governor. And as the Governor mentioned, it has been a good trip so far. The reception was well received today about the announcing of the opening of the office here. We had some 30 businesses and government folks in attendance at the announcement of the office, which took place at the U.S. Embassy here in Berlin. great excitement and enthusiasm for that office. Excited to get Cornelius Schnitzler on board and working to generate these leads and working with these companies to grow the existing presence that German companies have in Arkansas, but then also to hopefully generate some new business and some new foreign direct investment. But then also we look forward to having him in Arkansas at some point to introduce the companies there, so they know that they have a contact in Europe should they look to increase their exports as the economies continue to change and the world grows smaller. We'll look to continue to export more of Arkansas's products to Europe and other parts of the world. So the need for the office continues to be shown. But good meetings from Farnborough. We appreciate the communities and Little Rock Airport, Next Canadian Airport for attending the show with us and selling our community and selling our state and all the important things that we're doing in the aviation and aerospace sector. We look forward to more meetings this evening before wrapping up and heading back to Arkansas. With that, Governor, back over to you.
And with that, are there any questions?
Governor, this is Andrew with AP. A non-Europe question. Yesterday, Department of Correction announced they've got a new supply of the lethal injection drug that had expired last week. I just wanted to see what your comment was about that, and also in terms of the next steps. Since one of the other drugs expires in January, do you feel a rush to try to set those eight dates before the next drug expires, or are you hopeful this means that there are supplies for those other two drugs now too?
I was informed yesterday that the Department of Corrections had acquired the drug that had expired and that the supply has been replenished. I was encouraged that the legislative passage of the confidentiality law had the desired effect and increased the opportunity for that supply. The next step is to await the mandate from the Arkansas Supreme Court. Nothing can proceed until the mandate is issued on the pending cases. Once the mandate is issued, then the Attorney General will take the next step to advise of any individuals who are subject to execution and request that dates be set. It'll be my obligation under the law to set the dates. It'll be my intention, once I receive the letter from the Attorney General, to set the dates accordingly. There's not any, I would have to work with my staff in the Department of Corrections to determine the exact dates to be set, and but we would proceed once the mandate and the letter from the Attorney General is received.
I guess is your goal to get those once the mandate is issued? Is your goal to get those set before January, before the next drug expires?
I certainly would expect to set dates before January. Absolutely. It's been way too long and painful for the victims and their families, and so we would set the dates without any undue delay. But again, as to how many requests are sent by the Attorney General remains to be seen. As to whose dates will be set remains to be seen, and the specific time frames. But it is my job as Chief Executive to faithfully execute the laws, and once I've received a request from the Attorney General, we'll begin setting dates, and assuming that we get that letter in the near future, it would certainly be before January. Next question.
Governor, this is Wesley Brown with Talk Business. I wanted to pivot back to Europe. You spent 2 days in London, and there's still a lot of developments on Brexit and some fallout in international financial markets. I wanted to get your view on the United Kingdom's decision to exit the European Union and how that will affect Arkansas business relationships. with Europe and with Great Britain?
You know, I've had some very positive discussions and informative discussions with both, well, primarily those in the business sector. And it is my view that this will not put any damper on increased trade opportunities with Europe. It is my judgment that we'll be in a better position to negotiate trade deals. I believe the European Commission is in a weaker negotiating posture than prior to the Brexit vote. And whenever you're looking at the barriers that they have placed on Arkansas poultry, meat products, as well as rice and other commodities, I think their tough negotiating position has been reduced and hampered as a result of the Brexit vote. And so in that sense, I'm optimistic in the long term that we will have a better market over here for our agricultural products. And I do not see Europe's investment in the United States slowing down at all. And in fact, because of the uncertainty that's been created in Europe as a result of the Brexit vote, they have even looked to a greater extent at the U.S. market as a safe area for investment. So from a U.S. perspective, I consider our trade will continue in a very robust fashion, and the opportunities are not limited by that Brexit vote.
Governor, this is Jacob Kaufman with KUAR Public Radio. I'm asking this question about the death penalty kind of in the context of criminal justice reform movements and the Black Lives Matter movement. Do you believe that there are any racial biases at play in who receives the death penalty in Arkansas?
That's the kind of question that is resolved by constitutional challenges to convictions. In each of the instances that are before the court, the Supreme Court now, that has been affirmed and that we're waiting the mandate on, there has been no constitutional issue raised that has been found to have merit by the court, and therefore again, it's my duty to execute the law based upon the Supreme Court's review and affirmation of the convictions. You know, in terms of more broad criminal justice reform, you know, it is a very legitimate point of evaluation to make sure our criminal justice system is working fairly and that we're incarcerating the right people and there's not any racial bias in our system. And so I hope that, you know, that we continue to debate it and try to get it right, and that we listen to each other whenever there's legitimate concerns that are raised.
Governor, this is Lance Turner with Arkansas Business. Just wondered if you could add a little color to how the relationship with Mr. Schnitzler came about and how that will work, how the offices will coordinate, maybe kind of what the mandate is to him, the goals perhaps?
Yeah, I'm going to start with that, and obviously I'll ask Mike Preston to follow up on it. But you know, the selection was made by our economic development professionals, and a recognition of Germany being the right place, and that with his business background, his connections here, he obviously is the right fit and very talented. And I'll just say before I turn over to Mike that the success of this trip in terms of the contacts it made, the businesses that have been brought to the table, Mr. Schnitzler has done an outstanding job in making this come off in a very successful way and expanding Arkansas's exposure to these important companies. And And it's important to emphasize that, we want to maintain and expand on our existing business relationship with German companies. And so this is about making sure that our good companies in Arkansas that are employing Arkansans are not taken by another state, that they're happy in Arkansas, that they have a good home here, and as well as trying to recruit additional companies. So it's about really opening doors for Arkansas companies to the European market, as well as making sure European companies are exposed to the Arkansas market. Mike?
Thanks, Governor. And when we evaluated this, we thought about, do we send an Arkansan over to Germany and have him work exclusively for Arkansas in Germany, but the time it would take to develop the relationships over here, we probably set us back 3 or 4 years. We can't afford to wait any longer to get more proactive in Europe and other places around the world. So we wanted to hire someone who had economic development experience, who had business experience, but also had the ties over here in Berlin as well as throughout Europe. So we started talking to some of our existing companies as well as consultants that we've worked with in the state, in the country, to get an idea of who would be a good fit. A lot of other states who do also have offices in Germany, they'll contract with a larger firm that could represent multiple states. To us, we wanted someone who was going to be solely focused on Arkansas, so he is exclusively working for Arkansas and not someone else. So we're excited about that. Our team, including Linker Barakova and Danny Gaines, came over to Germany back in April for the Hanover Trade Show. And after evaluating many applications, setting up several interviews, we decided to move forward with Dr. Schnitzler, who, as the governor mentioned, has a great background, studied in the U.S., is fluent in German as well as English, and proficient in other languages as well in Europe. So we're excited about his being on board now. The connections he already has here with companies as well as the embassy and other government officials has been tremendous and has really helped us navigate the country.
This is Brian with the Democratic Gazette. I was just wondering what his business background is and, how you first heard about the guy.
Sure. So he's worked for 4 companies over here in Germany that have worked with other states before. So that's we heard from some of our consultants that we've worked with on other companies, and we pushed out the information that we were looking for someone and had it distributed through multiple offices. And we had resumes come in, and his kind of got to the top. I think if you wanted, we could get you a copy of the resume of Scott's there in the room as well. And should have that on file. We can give you a copy of his resume that he sent in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Governor, the GOP convention begins next week. I wanted to kind of get an update on what is your possible role there, and have you confirmed any speaking engagements there?
Actually, I can confirm that I will be speaking at the convention. I expect to be on Tuesday night in prime time. And so I've been in discussion with the convention managers and the Donald Trump campaign in that way. They're still waiting to release a final list of the speakers, and so we're anxious for that to happen. But I've been working on it for some time, and so I think it's appropriate for me to go ahead and confirm that I will be speaking at the convention.
Any idea what you're going to be speaking about on Tuesday night?
I'll let the Trump, well, I'm not going to talk about it now. I'll put it that way. And I'm also pleased. I'm going to be speaking to a number of different state delegations while I'm there. I'll be doing some media while I'm there. So my goal as I have the opportunity to go to the convention is help shape the debate, to help broadcast some of the successes in Arkansas, and obviously to make sure that we have a convention that will lay a good foundation for Donald Trump to run on in the fall. All right, well, thank you all for giving me time today.